recommendations as well. I'm open to listening and seeing where you guys think we should go with this next. But I think that's a great idea, Fred.
Okay, it's recording, so don't say anything bad about Andrea.
Hey, well, one of the reasons why, going through this process and actually giving homework is people have been becoming more intimate with the system. I mean, we're able to give you enough of the knowledge of how to develop a plan, whether you can use one of your own existing plans and put it into the system or making up a plan. And we just got finished, oh golly, onboarding Kansas City. I think we're almost finished anyway. And some of the plans that they came up with as their homework assignment is, oh, I'm planning a Christmas party. I'm planning a move. I'm planning a vacation, or something that might even be personal. I did this fitness program thingy called 75 Hard. I made a plan for that. So that way you don't have to, you don't have to use, a plan that's related to public health. And it might be something that you could learn a little bit more about just by planning your own goals and objectives and activities for something you're doing. And then that's the homework assignment. So that will be fun. And I just want, again, I came in, Chrissy, to fall on my sword and say, sorry, I'm going to get off camera so you guys can get to it. And if you need anything, please feel free. I think, did you send them the template, or is that for the next one?
No, that would usually go with the
review.
I'll send it to them afterwards.
Okay, and then maybe we can get a date if we haven't already set. I think we did.
Yeah, we've got it all set.
Oh, got it. Perfect. All
Thank
right.
You.
All righty.
Thanks. Okay. This usually takes about 45 minutes to get through, so I'll give you an extra 15 minutes of your day back today. But what we're going to do is actually walk through the operational planning process. So in the introduction, we talked about the overall system, what it's all about, what the planning model looks like. But now we're actually going to walk through and look at the different layers of an operational plan. Going to get real examples from public health across the nation of what these different layers might look like. And then at the end, we're actually going to go through and develop an operational plan, put it in the system. I'm going to walk through the process so I see all the button pushes and all the screens that you need to go to. And then, as Andrea mentioned, there's going to be homework at the end. And the homework is to go in and either in a Word template that I'll send you or in the system itself, if you're comfortable doing that, is develop a quick little operational plan that we can go through and review in our next meeting. So let's go ahead and get started here. First of all, just reviewing the planning model here. What you see in the bubbles up here, what FAB calls their 6-pack of plans. So these are typically the initial plans that people enter into the system here. Underneath that, then we have the pyramid model. The pyramid model starts at your organization, which is Umatilla Public Health. Underneath that, then you have what we call groups. So groups is the structure of your health department in the system. And let's go ahead and tab over to your health department. So this is your group screen up here. At the top level is the health department administration. The levels over here, level 1 is the top level. Level 2s report to level 1. So down here you see where you have your strategic plan reporting to the department, your administrative services reporting up to the department. So looks like everything we have is level 2, with the exception down here under FEP, you have pandemic planning, which is a 3 reporting up to 2. I've added these 2 new groups down here. Training, which is just a sandbox so that you can go in and play without affecting anything else in the system. And then this group we'll be working on today, which is the same example we used in the overview, which is Tobacco 2023. Now, under each group, then, you're going to have a set of services or initiatives. Services are ongoing things. I used the example of WIC being a service. WIC is something that's been around forever and will continue to be around. Initiatives are future things that we're trying to accomplish here. So we're going to use the example, again, of tobacco cessation. We're going to implement a tobacco cessation program. Each service or initiative then has a set of goals. Goals are a high-level definition of what we're trying to accomplish. Objectives are what we call SMART objectives. Again, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based is our acronym. So it's a very finite target of what we're trying to accomplish. And then the activities are the steps we're going to go through to get there. So this is the planning model, and we're going to walk through each layer of this model and give you real examples. So it might be, kind of rings in your head a little bit. Oh, that makes sense at this level. Before I do that, however, the nomenclature that you see on here is pretty standardized, but not cast in concrete. And the reason I say that is we get plans from all over the nation where people have different nomenclature in there and different things, shifted around at different levels in here. That's perfectly legit. So what I wanted to do is just walk you through some of those examples. So if somebody comes up and says, hey, here's our new community health improvement plan, put it in the system, and you look at the names and the titles and things like that, and they don't look the same, maybe you can just kind of turn around and say, okay, this makes sense to be an initiative. This makes sense to be a goal. So let's go look at some of those examples. So here's one: strategic priorities, goals, strategies, and objectives. So again, you see the objectives and strategies is in there. And by the way, I don't really care for strategies being at that level. To me, strategies are what we're going to do to get to an objective primarily here. So maybe if the objectives and strategies were reversed, it would make more sense to me. But again, this is a real live example. Strategic areas, that's pretty good. Goals, outcome objectives, I like that one. Outcome objectives, because that's what your objectives are, is what is the outcome we're trying to accomplish here. And then strategies to get to the objective, that's a good one. Here's another example: priorities, good. Goals, objectives, and action steps. Activities really are action steps. It's the steps we're going to go through to get to the objective. Priority areas, goals, again, strategies kind of in the wrong place, and then action steps. Priorities, goals, objectives, and strategies, good one. Strategies at the top. This is kind of interesting, but it kind of makes sense at that level here. Strategic objectives, I like that for goals. It's, the higher level, if you will, of the objectives, then objectives and action steps. So again, the reason I bring this up is somebody's going to give you a plan and say, put it in the system. You're going to have to, you're going to have to convert it to the nomenclature of the system. And this is kind of some of the examples. And you might see different examples in this as well. Now, next we're going to look at our different groups. So groups are exactly that. It's a part of the organization. So it's a division or an office or a program. Sometimes it's a primary plan, what we call typically the FAB 6-pack of plans, which is the CHIP and the strategic plan, emergency operations and such down there. So groups sometimes encompass the entire plan. Sometimes some of those pieces of plans are subgroups, if you will, or embedded within another group. So let's go through some examples here. So like we saw in yours, the department, health department administration is the top level group typically. Underneath that, we might have something like community health division. See, that's a level 2, and the levels indicate the hierarchy of the groups here. So level 2 reports to a level 1 group. Maybe under community health, we have WIC. So WIC is level 3, reporting to community health, reporting to the department. Then we talk about potentially the 6-pack of plans being at the highest level, at the group level. So this is a strategic plan at the department level, which is exactly the way you guys have it set up. Your community health improvement plan, again, reporting to the department level. And then for our example today, we're going to use the same example: tobacco 2023, tobacco programs, again, could be relating to the department. I think in our example, it relates up to the community health division. So lots of different ways to do that. And by the way, once you get it structured in there, you can move it around. It's real simple to move around. You just change the parent group and the level, and boom, it moves everything around for you automatically. Now, underneath your groups, then, you're going to have services or initiatives. The big difference in services and initiatives, other than a little checkbox that says it's an initiative, is down the pyramid, down at the activity level. The dates on the activities are typically future dates for initiatives versus current dates for services. So here's some examples: healthy moms and babies, readiness for emerging health threats, effective agency processes, access to care, behavioral health and substance abuse, population health, organizational excellence, chronic disease prevention and control, health disparities, and again for today, tobacco cessation. So the thing to look at here is, I call these buckets. This is just a container for the plans underneath it pretty much, and defining kind of an area that the plans are related to. Now, underneath each service or initiative, then you're going to have a set of goals. And again, goals are a high level definition, not real specific, but a higher level definition of what we're trying to accomplish. Typically, a goal starts with an action verb and a couple of words after that. So here's some examples: reduce the risk of infectious disease, promote safe and sanitary food establishments, support communities in building resiliency, enhance healthcare through technology, drive health in all policy agendas, reduce the risk of vaccine preventable diseases, promote public health readiness and response, promote succession planning and career growth, integrate a data-driven best practices approach, and then again for today, reduce smoking in high schools. So again, the thing to take away from here is the goal gives you a good idea of what we're trying to accomplish without the detail. So for instance, reduce smoking in high schools. Which high schools? When are we planning on doing it? How much do we want to reduce smoking? That's when we get down to the next level, what we call the SMART objectives. But it does give you a good idea. Hey, we're going to reduce smoking in high schools. That's a good idea of what we're trying to accomplish. Now we're going to get down to the details. So here's some examples of what we call SMART objectives. Again, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-based. Now, I know there's multiple definitions of the SMART acronym there. When I focus on this, I focus on specific, measurable, and time-based. You know, when I look at attainable and realistic, why would you go after something that wasn't attainable or wasn't realistic to do? So I kind of take those out of there and think about my objectives as being specific, measurable, and time-based. So here's some examples. By December 2023, we're going to identify 2 or more strategies to collaboratively reduce risky alcohol-related behaviors. So it does pretty well fit in the specific, measurable, and time-based. Time-based by December, specific and measurable, identify 2 or more strategies. By December 2023, 80% of educators and school staff have been exposed to ACE awareness education. By June 2023, provide 6 training opportunities for first responders who work with individuals in a mental health crisis. By the end of 4th quarter, all programs will have established goals, objectives, and activities to be reported on within the VMSG dashboard. And then for today, we're going to still use the example of reduce smoking at Wayne High School by 25% by the end of the school year. So again, looking at this, we've set the target, a very, very specific target in a specific time frame, and how we're going to measure it. Now, underneath the objectives then are the action steps, or what we call activities. And activities are...
Sorry.
Did you have a question, Marley? Okay, so there's 3 distinct types of activities in the system. Marley, could you please mute your mic? Okay. The activities, again, are the set of steps we're going to go through in order to get to the objective here. 3 types of activities. The most common type of activity is what we call a project-based activity. Think of it exactly as that. It's a project. It's got a beginning, it's got an end, and something we're going to accomplish in the middle here. So project-based activity. Create training, content, and materials for students and faculty on the dangers of smoking. So the project is to create the training content. Our performance measure in this case is the training content materials being created. So how do we know when we've successfully completed the activity? This is the only type of activity where you manually create the performance measure. The rest of them, I'll show you, it creates the performance measure by itself in here. So what we're trying to do is create training content. We'll know we're done when we've created the training content. We've got a date range in here when we're originally planning on doing it, and these can vary over time depending on what happens in the real world. We're going to do team assignments, so the internal folks, the team members, team leads. We're going to do external partner assignments, if that makes sense. And then our measurement in this case is just going to be how far along are we, % complete. And there's several options that I'll show you when we get into actually entering it in here. So that's the project-based activity. Probably 85, 90% of what you enter in the system will be the project-based activity. And there's a couple of unique instances where you're going to have these different types of activities. The second one here is what we call a quality assurance activity. It's unique in a couple of things. First of all, it's just got a beginning date and a frequency, so it's a repetitive activity. In this case, we're going to say we're going to provide 9 training sessions each month on the dangers of smoking to students and faculty. So in this case, the frequency is monthly, and our measurement here is going to be, do we get to 9 training sessions? If we do, we're going to automatically set that traffic light to green. If we don't, let's say we only get to 6, we're going to set that light to red. And if we're in between 7 or 8, it's going to set it to yellow. So the uniqueness about this again is it's repetitive. So we have a beginning date and not an ending date, and a frequency. So we're going to start out May 1, we're going to go through the month. We're going to start out June 1, we're going to go through the month. And then if we measure that amount in the month, we're going to set the traffic light automatically. So you see we have a cycle start date and a frequency, and exactly what I'm saying. So May 1, but then at the end of the month, we'll move to June 1, July 1, August 1, et cetera. Our performance measure is going to be created for you, and it's going to be training sessions provided, measured monthly in our green, yellow, and red. And then again, team and partner assignments. And our metric at this point in time is how many training sessions did we provide? And again, it's going to automatically set the traffic light. So this is the only one that automatically sets the traffic light for you. Now the third type, and by the way, this is the least used type of activity. Again, it's specific to repetitive things. Our third type of activity we call a quantitative measurement activity. In this case, contact all 20 tobacco vendors within 1 mile of Wayne High School to assure they're not selling to minors. Very, very similar to the project-based activity. The only real exception is that instead of you having to calculate how far along or percent complete, you now have a target number, a quantity in here, 20, that can be your denominator. So if I put in 10, it's going to calculate 10 out of 20 is 50%. So it basically automatically calculates the percent complete for you in here. Our target quantity. It's got dates just exactly like a project-based activity. Our performance measure, which will be created for you again, is 20 tobacco vendors contacted between May 1 and June 30th. And then again, team and partner assignments. And our metric in this case is just how many vendors did we contact. So those are the 3 types of activities. Now, if we take the examples that we've been seeing in blue on each of these different levels and put it into a plan, it looks like this. Our group was tobacco programs for 2023. The initiative we selected was tobacco cessation. The goal under tobacco cessation was to reduce smoking in high schools. The objective under reduce smoking in high schools was to reduce smoking at Wayne High School by 25% by the end of the school year. The activities are the steps we're going to go through to get to that target: create training content, provide denying training sessions, and contact the tobacco vendors. Now, we could also have a second goal down here: reduce smoking in colleges. Under that, we might have a similar objective: reduce smoking at Wright State University by 25% by the end of the school year, and then we would have similar activities to that under that objective. So this is the planning model. Every plan goes into this model, fits pretty well. There are exceptions in there, but for the most part, everything fits into the model pretty well. Now, what we're going to work on today is we're actually going to take this plan and we're going to enter it in the dashboard. And we're going to use this operational plan template. I will send you guys a copy of this after we're done here. This is a Word document template that was created by one of our clients in Wisconsin. And the reason they did it was because some of the people were uncomfortable creating a plan and going directly into the system and putting it in there until they'd had a chance to share the plan with their teammates and actually go in and get it tweaked exactly the way they want it and then put it in the system. By the way, even if you put it in the system, you can still go back and easily tweak the plan, but some people feel more comfortable doing this. So the template is kind of cool because it defines each level as you're going in. It's just a nice reference point. So our service or initiative, what bucket of work or priority does this relate to? Tobacco cessation. Our first goal, what is your pie in the sky goal? So remember that high level goal, reduce smoking in high schools. And then we have the objectives down here. Objectives, specifically, what and when do you hope to accomplish? Objective, and then we have our objective down here. Down here we have another objective, so being kind of parallel with this objective, reduce smoking at Desert Vista High School. We have the objective leads here, so who's going to be assigned to the objective? Whose responsibility is it to get to that objective? And then we're going to have the activities down here. Each activity has a performance metric, has activity leads and team members and dates in there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this document and we're going to put it into the dashboard. So let me go grab that. So this is the live template here. It's a Word document. Again, I'll send you a copy of it so you'll have it. And by the way, the homework again at the end is going to be to go away and create a plan. It doesn't have to be anything related to business. It doesn't have to be, it can be anything. We've had a lot of fun with this, people coming up with creative plans about planting grass in their backyard and Christmas vacations, Las Vegas vacations, planning my kids' birthday parties, that kind of stuff. So if you want to do it and put it into a template like this, when we go into the next session, the follow-up session, we'll actually give you control and have you put it in the system and we'll walk you through the process. We find that works pretty well for a lot of people because it gives them that hands-on, and a lot of people tend to learn better that way. So I'm going to go back over to our dashboard here. I'm going to go down to our training group and then to our Tobacco 2023 group. So the next thing I'm going to do is add a service or initiative here. So I'll click on this tab, and nothing's in there. When nothing's in there, I get this little block down here basically that says you can't do anything until you either click this or click the plus button. I'll go ahead and click here. Now I'm going to go back to my document. I'm going to grab tobacco cessation. Now there's a lot of ways to copy this. My personal preference is keyboard shortcuts. So Control-C on a Windows machine or Command-C on a Mac will copy it. Control-C, you can right-click and copy if you want to, and probably lots of other ways, I imagine. Go back over here, Control-V as in Victor to paste it in there, and tobacco cessation. This little guy right here is determines whether it's an initiative or a service. If it's unchecked, it's going to show up everywhere as a service in the reports and all that kind of stuff. If it's checked, it's going to show up as an initiative. We'll go ahead and save that. Now down here at the bottom, this is something we'll be kind of talking about as we move into the future trainings as well. Hide service. So let's assume that this was a program that we did last year and we're done with the program and we want to keep it there for reference, but we don't want everybody to be looking at it or worrying about it. I'll hit the hide service button, save it, and now you notice it grays out up here. What that means is that if you are a manager level or org admin level user, you can look at it, you can report on it, generate BMSD public, whatever you want to do on it. If you're a normal user, you won't even see it in there. So the normal users won't see that particular service or initiative. They'll see the other ones that are in there that aren't hidden. And again, it's archiving basically. So I've got that in there so I can go back and see how did we do last year compared to this year and that sort of thing. Now, under the service or initiative, then we're going to go down and grab the first goal, reduce smoking in high schools. Again, Control-C, go back over here. I'm going to go down to my goals tab. And again, it's blocked out. Open it up, click on that. Control-V, reduce smoking in high schools. I'll go ahead and save that. Now, at this point in time, we're going to assign traffic lights. So you got a couple of choices here. I can either just cycle through the lights with my mouse, or I can hit the drop down. So either way, we give them both ways. Some people like it either way, so we give them both ways to do that in here. At this point in time, I'm going to leave it green and say that. Now, a couple of other options you have down here. You got your notes field. So anytime, if I were to change this traffic light to a yellow, I might want to put a note down in it that says, hey, John is retiring and he's driving this program. We're going to need to be able to replace John. So I'm going to mark it as a yellow light and put that note down in here. I got a couple of options on notes. I said, this is a test note, and I go ahead and save that. Or if I want to have a time and date stamp note, I just click on this little guy right here, and there's system admin happens to be me. This is also a test note. So as you're putting notes in there, if I put the time and date stamp note, it's going to go to the very top with the notes. So you're always looking at the latest notes, and they'll scroll on forever here. You get a little scroll bar over here if you need it and everything else. Data source. Data source we'll be talking about more as we go forward here, but the data source is the ability to basically attach a web page to this particular goal as a reference point. To do that, I'm going to click on the data source button here. I'm going to go ahead and type in CDC.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Okay, we are CDC program, and for this year, we make a new plan from July 23 to July 24.
Okay.
So my question is, some of the goal we have right now is the same for the next year. Where can I duplicate this information?
Where can you duplicate it?
How?
Yeah,
How can I do that?
Real easy. I'll show you that here in just a second.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
yeah, let me finish this up and remind me, and I'll show you how to copy and paste the plan.
Thank you.
So there is a web page called CDC Smoking Cessation Fast Facts, and maybe that's where I'm going to get my information on, where we are in reduced smoking in high schools. The link always has to start with HTTP:// or HTTPS:// and I'll put in www.cdc.gov. Now, if I had the rest of the URL, I could put it in there or copy and paste it out of the web browser or whatever. but for now, we'll just go to cdc.gov. When I go ahead and save that, you'll notice I have the text description down here, and then I have this little link. It's a chain link if you don't recognize that. Now the chain link, when I click on that, opens up a new web browser page and takes me right to the CDC webpage here. So I can have any web page in there. I can be intranet page or anything else. And what you're looking at is just having a reference point so I know where I'm going to go get the information to update my plan. So that's what the data source is all about. Data source is available at the goal, the objective, and the activity level. Now, if I wanted to go back here, let me answer the question here. I wanted to copy this entire plan, my Tobacco 2023, into a new plan, including all the way down the pyramid to the activity level. I use this button right here as my copy. And now you'll notice the paste button lights up. So I'm going to go back to my training group as the parent group, and then go ahead and paste it there. Hit that. It says, do I want to copy the lights? Do I want to set them all to green, set them to red? I'll just go ahead for now and set them to red. And then what permissions do I want to give the people? So do I want to give everybody view permissions, which is the most common? If I want everybody to be able to edit it, I can change it there. Or if I can just say just me getting permissions, I'll go ahead and say all view. And you'll see now we've created a new version of that plan. You can go down here and, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry about that. Hit the wrong button here. And we'll save that. So now what I've done is created a new version of that plan. Then you go down the pyramid and you'll change the dates, change the people, all you need to do. So you can make an exact copy of any plan in the system. Does that answer your question, Haiti?
Yes, thank you. I have another one, sorry. Okay, when I start with this, I want to finish for the 2023. So when you can explain to me what can finish for the last year, or I don't need put the finish, because I understand I put some activities like December 23, but we don't complete this activity because we start with once in the July this year. So did you understand what is my question?
No, not really. So
okay,
try it again.
Right now we have a plan for 2023, and this finish December 2023. But I changed that because I start for new one for July 2023 to July 2024. My question is, the old plan, they has activity to December. Where can I finish this activity? Because it has to plan
yeah, down at the activity level is where you mark the activities completed. So you'll mark, if they're project-based activities, you'll mark them as 100% complete, and then they're completed at this point in time. There'll be a history record. And by the way, we're going to go into that in detail in the, not the next training, but the following training on performance monitoring. We talk all about that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
So you're a little bit ahead of the game here. Okay, let's go down and finish our plan here. So we're down at the initiative level. Underneath that, we have the goal of reduce smoking in high schools. We talk about the notes. We talk about the data source. Now, the next thing we're going to do is want to put in the objectives. I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to grab our first objective. So we're going to reduce smoking at Wayne High School by 25% by the end of the school year. Control C, go back over to here. Now, I got two ways to get down there. Let's say I had a whole bunch of goals down here, and I just wanted to go down and select the objectives for a specific goal down here further. That's what this little drill down arrow is about, is all it does is save you one mouse click. So instead of selecting here and then selecting objectives, I select here, and it selects the objective specifically for that goal. So in this case, obviously there's none in there yet. I'll click on this button, hit Control V to paste that in there. Go ahead and save that. And again, over here, we have the notes and we have the data source that we can put in there. We won't do that again. Now here is where I'm going to select the objective lead. So the objective lead's got two responsibilities. Number one, their job is to get us to this 25% reduction by the end of the school year. And number two is their job is to update the information. So down here we have, what are we measuring? Right now it says objective percent done, which is the default, 0 to 100%. In this case, that's not what we're measuring. We're measuring percent reduction. So I'm going to change this to percent reduction. And we're measuring it in percent versus decimal. So I'm going to leave the percent measurement unit, which just appears over here. I'm going to call it percent. If I was measuring, counting something, you know, number of trainings or whatever it was, I could call it decimal and it would change the values down here. I'm going to go ahead and call it percent. So now we have a percent reduction. And then this is where I'm going to enter my, in this case, let's say we're at 20% reduction right now. I'll go ahead and save that. Now, let's go ahead and assign our objective lead. So our objective lead, again, is going to be the person who's going to keep this measurement up to date through what we call the real-time planning, and they're going to be responsible for getting us to that target. The reason nobody shows up in this window when I open it is because I'm looking at the default group down here, Tobacco 2023, and there's nobody assigned to that group. So I'll say show all users. I'm just going to go up here and pick the first person up here as our objective lead and go ahead and save that. So now the objective lead shows up over here. We're at 20% status. We have a green light in here. So again, this is the objective. This is what we're trying to accomplish. To get down to the next level, again, I can either click the drill down arrow or just go to my activities tab up here. We're going to go ahead and enter each of the different types of activities so you can see the differences in here. Again, I'm going to click on the plus button this time. If I click on the plus button, it's exactly the same as clicking down here. It just opens up the field for me. Alt tab, go back over here. So our first activity is we're going to create training content and materials for students and faculty on the dangers of smoking, a project-based activity. Control C, go back over here, enter that, Control V. Now I'm going to go ahead and leave it as a project-based activity. This is where I'd select the different types over here. And as I mentioned, the project-based activity is the only one where you come up with the performance metric. And again, the performance metric is, if I look at the activity, how do I know when I'm done with that activity? We've already defined it over here. The training content and materials have been created. I'm going to go back over here. I'll paste it in here, Control V. I'm going to go down and say, okay, let's pick a date. So let's go ahead and say August 1st through August 31st. And we'll go ahead and save that. Eventually, we'll go ahead and save that. There we go. Okay. So this is the activity, the project-based activity with our performance metric in here. Our measurement over here in this case is going to be a percent complete by default. There's a couple options I'll show you here. So let's say we have, let me go ahead and put in a note that, oops, put in a note that says completed chapter 1 of 4. When I complete chapter 1 of 4, that tells me that I'm about 25% done. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this as 25%. Go ahead and save that. So now I'm 25% done with this particular activity. My next note might say completed chapter 2 of 4. It'll be 50%, 75, and 100. So if you're doing this over a course of time, that measurement makes sense. If you're going to do this all at one time, let's say you're going to take a week and you're going to get all this content done, and you just want to go in and mark it as complete, you got a couple of different options. Here's the activity wizard here. Click on that. So the first thing I have is I can put in my dates either here or here, either one exactly the same. But I have data entry types. So my default is 0 to 100% complete. Down here, I have the option to say yes or no. So it could be an activity that is basically, it could be answered with a yes or no. And then there's complete. So you'll notice over here where it was 0 to 100% now says complete and a checkbox. Go ahead and save that. So now if I check, if it's unchecked, it's 0%. If it's checked, it's 100%. So all you're doing is saying, I'm done with it. And if I check this particular one, you'll notice that on a project-based activity, 100% complete turns the traffic light to gold, meaning successful completion in here. I can't override that once I mark it in there. I could turn it back to green if I wanted to, if it was an ongoing thing. But in this case, we're going to say the content is created. I'll go ahead and save that. Now the light up here turns gold. So that's the activity. Next thing we do with an activity is assign people to it. So this little pencil icon assigns my activity leader and team members. Click on that. And again, there's nobody in here because there's nobody assigned to the default group of Tobacco 2023. If I click this little black X up here, any one of these three actually, it clears the filter and says, show me everybody in the organization. Now to assign the team lead, which is typically your first thing, I'm going to go ahead and assign Ada as a team lead. When I do that, in order to be a team lead, you have to be a team member. And by default, you're going to get the email notification. So this is that real-time planning email that goes out to everybody to come back in and update this activity. And I'll go ahead and assign Isabel as a team member as well. You can have as many team members as you want, one team lead. You can have multiple email notifications, but typically it's one person. Typically it's the activity lead. So I'll go ahead and save that. Now down here, you notice the L indicates team lead. The blue around the L indicates email notification. The T indicates team member. So I've got my my internal team folks assigned. These are the people who are responsible for creating the training content. The other option I have down here is activity partners, and you guys don't have any partners entered in the system yet. So what you would have down here on the left is a list of partner organizations. Over here on the right, you'd have the contacts within those partner organizations. So if I select the first partner organization, it's going to give me the contacts for them. I can assign either the organization, there's be a green checkbox over here, either the organization or one or more contacts within the organization. I can assign as many organizations and as many contacts as I want to. These are the external folks that you're working with, in this case, to complete the training content. So that's our first activity. That's the project-based activity. And again, by far the most common type of activity that you'll be using in the system. Now I'm going to go ahead and add our second activity in here, which is to provide 9 training sessions each month on the dangers of smoking to students and faculty. Again, Control-C to copy that. Go back over to here. I'm going to hit the plus button to add a new activity. Opens up my fields. Control-V. Provide my 9 training sessions a month. In this case, this is going to be what we call a quality assurance activity. So now it opens up the wizard automatically when I select that. My frequency is how often am I doing it? So you notice you have anywhere from weekly to every 5 years. I'm going to go ahead and say monthly. I'll go ahead and leave the start date as today. I'm going to go in here and put in that if we're 9 or greater, it's green. And I'm just picking a number here at random. 6 or less, it's red. So in between would be yellow. So we know that we're doing this on a monthly basis, and we know that 9 is our target. So it makes sense to do that. We're going to go down here and say training sessions provided. I'll go ahead and save that. So now you'll notice it created the performance metric for you. Training sessions provided, measured monthly, are green, yellow, and red. The reason that the light is red, again, this is the one that automatically sets the light because we're at 0 or an empty field in here. If I go ahead and set this to 7, for instance, you notice the light turns to yellow up here. I'll go ahead and save this activity. It'll be yellow up there as well. And then from here, I would go in and set the activity team leader and team members, and I would set the activity partners into them. When I go ahead and save this particular type of activity again, it gives me the dialogue, do you want to update the cycle start date? So right now we're at 7/31. I've only entered 7. Maybe I've got a couple more to enter, so I might say no. Or I could say, yeah, I want to select a new date. It's going to by default give you the next month in advance date. Or I could say current date. So in this case, that wouldn't make sense because it's the same date. But the current date would say, put today's date as your cycle start date. I'll go ahead and select no for now. So that's our second activity, the quality assurance activity. Let's go back and get our third activity. In this case, we're going to contact all 20 tobacco vendors within a mile of Wayne High School. Control-C, go back over here. I'm going to go ahead and hit the plus to add the activity, paste it in there, Control-V, and I'm going to call this a quantitative measurement activity. There goes my wizard again. So I got my beginning and ending date. So let's go ahead and pick August 1st through August 31st again. This time I have a target number. So contact all 20 tobacco vendors. So my target is going to be 20. Decimal or dollars. Decimals is you're counting anything. Dollars is exactly that. It's dollars. So all your fields become dollar signs with 2 decimal places, that sort of thing. Used when you're doing grant management, that sort of thing. It's kind of a nice thing to have. My metric type in this case would be, you recall, how many did we contact in there? A couple options down here. We'll talk more about these in a minute. enter a value to add to total. So if I'm doing the contacting the tobacco vendors over a month, and maybe every week I go in and say, I did 5 this month, I did 6 the next month or whatever. My performance metric here is 20 tobacco vendors contacted between 8/1 and 8/31. Here's my measurement. I'll go ahead and save that for now. My measurement down here then says, how many did I contact? So let's say this week I contacted 5. And the add the total is exactly this. It added it to my running total here, calculated it to be 25% complete. I'll go ahead and save that. And maybe the next week I go in and I say I did 4 more. And I calculate it, now calculates to 9, 45% complete. Go ahead and save that. So that's what the add to total does. Let's look at some of the other options in here. Let's say I was going to go in and contact all 20 tobacco vendors in 1 week, and I just want to come in at the end of the week and say I did 20. So I can go right into here, and this time I'm going to say enter a new total value. Click on that, save it. So you notice the add to field went away. It moved the 9 up into there. So I can just go in here and say, you know, I did my 20 tobacco vendors this week, calculates it to be 100% complete, and we're done with it. That's one of the other options. There is another option that's a little bit hidden in here, and that is what we call a zero target. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to 0, and I'll go ahead and save it. Now you notice our percent calculation field went away because we no longer have a denominator, so we can't divide by 0. What this is all about is if you have something that you're doing, you don't have a target number, but you want to know at the end of the month or the week, whatever it is, how many did we do? Again, this was a health department in Ohio who had plumbing inspections as part of their responsibility. They didn't have any target number. They just wanted to be able to say, you know, when somebody calls within a couple of days or whatever it is, we responded and did it. But we want to know at the end of the month, how many did we do? You know, in this case, how many FTEs did we expend doing this kind of thing? So that's what these zero targets all about. It's just counting. So I'm just counting up the number of something in there. How much did we spend or whatever, not against a target. So that is the QM activity. So those are the 3 types of activities. In order of usage, you're going to find the project-based activity is by far the most. QM activity would be second most. QA activity would be the third most. So now that is the plan that we put in the system. Let's go back over here and walk it through the pyramid. So our group was Tobacco 2023. The initiative we were working on was tobacco cessation. The goal of reduce smoking in high school. The SMART objective of reduce smoking at Wayne High School by 25% by the end of the school year. And then our activities, create the training curriculum, provide 9 training sessions a month, contact the local tobacco vendors. So that is the operational planning process. Again, what I'd ask everybody to do before our next session, which is just a couple of days from now, is to actually either go into the system or, like I say, I'll be sending out a template, that template that you just saw. I'll send a blank template out. If you want to just create a plan in there, that's fine. Again, we'll walk you through the process in our next training session of actually entering in the system. If you're comfortable entering it in the system, please feel free to go to the training group here. So go down to the training group and enter into the training group. Everybody has full access to it, and it's isolated from everything else, so you can't hurt anything in here. But in the training group, you go down and add a service, click on here, click on the plus button. When you add the service or initiative, put the definition down there, whatever you want, and if you don't mind putting in parentheses your initials, so that way when we go to review, we'll know who did what in the system in there. And that was what we had for today. Any other questions I can answer? Okay, it sounds like not. Let me look at the calendar here real quick and figure out when the next training session is.
I believe it's on Wednesdays, Brad. I think we only have a day to get this done, unless you want to.
Let me give you some idea on the plan. Yeah, it is. It is at 1 o'clock on Wednesday. Make the plan simple. One service or initiative, one goal, one objective, and a couple of activities. If you can find a way to think about using the 3 different types of activities, just for an example, try to do that. If not, just put in whatever you're comfortable putting in. Again, either in the template, and I will send you the template right after we get done here. If not in the template, then please go into the training group enter your plan in there, and we'll go from there.
Perfect.
Okay?
Alrighty, Fred, I don't think we have any questions here, so I appreciate your time, and we'll definitely see you Wednesday at 1 p.m.
Great. And if you have any questions between now and then, if you have trouble entering the plan, if your permissions don't seem right or whatever, everybody should have full access to it. But if you don't, please contact me. I'll get you set up quickly.
Sure. Thank you, Fred. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Talk soon. Bye.